Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We've got another Transformers review coming your way. This time around, we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studio Series number 75, Jolt. And this is Jolt as we saw him in Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. So as we always do, let's go ahead and bring in that packaging and take a look at that first off. And you've got that CGI artwork right there. I think he looks really cool there. Transformers number 75, Studio Series Jolt, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. On the side, you have another shot of that artwork. On the back, you have your product shots. This is big screen inspired. It is the Pyramid Desert Battle. This is an officially licensed product from General Motors. And when Jolt uses his electro whips to link the Autobot leader with jet parts from Jetfire, Optimus Prime takes to the skies as Jet Power Optimus Prime. The backdrop is included. Here are all your warnings, and thankfully Jolt does not electrocute the sad baby. That would make him even more sad. And over here is a close-up of that artwork. He is a deluxe class. Up top, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. Down low, manufacturing information. So that is it for the outside of the packaging. Let's go ahead and take a look at what came inside that box. And here we have everything that came inside that box. We'll start as we always do with your little sheet of warnings. You also get the instructions. And then the only two accessories that he comes with are his electro whips. And they are identical, so let's go ahead and bring one in for a close-up. There is not a lot to see on these, but that's okay. So no paint apps, but you do have a decent amount of detail in there. And then you just have your post right here where you stick those in his hands. And that is really it. So it would have been nice if they would have decked these out in some silver paint, or maybe had some electrical effects or something that they could have had for those, maybe to wrap around to show the flow of electricity, but this is what you get with it. They're not the worst thing, but it's mildly disappointing. So that is it for everything that came inside that box, except for Jolt himself and his backdrop. And as I've said before, these backdrops are nice if you have the room on your shelf. I do not. So this will be going back into the box, and the box will be going back into storage. But let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and bring Jolt in for his close-up and check this guy out. Well, oh my. Seeing you here comes as quite a shock. Get it? Anyway, enough with the jokes. Let's go ahead and bring Jolt in for his close-up and look at that head sculpt. And I think it's very well done. Try to keep a focus on it here. I think the molded in detail pretty much all the way around for this figure. The molded in detail and the paint apps are absolutely great. He's easily, you know, the most accurate Jolt figure that we've gotten of the two that I'm aware of. So yeah, I mean, I think he looks pretty good for the most part. So coming down here to that chest, lots of stuff going on here. Even down here at the waist and the abs. Paint apps even up on the legs. So absolutely a lot of attention to detail was given here for his bot mode. I think this turned out looking really good. He does have a lot of car hanging off of him. I really can't see, for the price point being a deluxe figure, how they could have done it much better. So really no complaints there at all. Got detail inside that wheel well, even coming up here on the side of the leg. And then yeah, you got a big slab of car right there on the side. But looking up underneath, good detail up underneath there as well. Looking at those arms, they are just packed to the gills with stuff going on. So even down here on his hands, all the way up the arms, just loaded with stuff to look at. Now when you get around to the back, yeah, it's a lot of car. So, you know, he's not the most attractive bot from the back, but he's not the worst either. And even back here, I mean, you can see those faux tires, and you can see just some detail down here, and really no hollow areas to speak of on this guy. So that is very much appreciated. Now, as far as articulation goes, he's a little hindered by all the car hanging off of him, but it's not the worst. Now, as far as that head goes, you can get a little bit of down, you can get a little bit of up. You can't really get a lot of side to side with this guy. I mean, you can get a bit, and you can get about that far with the head before you start running into other parts of his body. So it's enough movement to get him in some poses. Now, as far as the shoulders go, You can get about that far. Now they're just on ball joints, as you can see up under there. And barring the geometry of everything else, you could take those all the way around full 360. At the elbow, you can get way over 90, which is much appreciated. And you do a bicep rotation, you could take that all the way around. And because they're on a ball joint, if you want to call it a butterfly, you could do a little bit of a butterfly here too. And then you do have just a little bit of movement down here. At the wrists, the only thing you get at the wrist is just swinging in for the transformation. But if you want to, I don't know, give him a cool look like that, I mean, I guess you could do something like that if you wanted to. He does have waist rotation, so it's not the easiest thing in the world to get to because of all the car hanging off, but he does have some waist rotation right there, so you can turn him around whichever way you need to. And then down here at the hips, you get a little bit of rotation at those hips. And you can bring them out about that far before he starts running into everything. So he's not going to get a Van Damme for you, but he's got a good split to him. And he can kick forward that far, and it's kind of hard to tell with all that car door hanging off of him. And he can kick backward about that far before he starts running into the back of his vehicle. So if you lift this up and get it out of the way, you can get more out of him. So if you absolutely needed it for a dynamic pose, you could. And this is his transformation joint right here. So, I mean, I guess if you wanted to use it as a ab crunch, you could. You know, I mean, certainly could. He can look down and go, hey, what's up? So, yeah, I mean, if you want to use it for that, go for it. He does have rotation down here. If you want to call this ankle rotation, lower knee rotation, whatever you want to call it for posing. But technically speaking, his ankle is down here, and for the ankle, he can go back about that far, and he can go forward about that far. There's no ankle tilt, but if you wanted to utilize it, you could probably use this wheel right there if you wanted to have him in some kind of a funky pose where you needed that. So it's always nice to have ankle rotation, but I would have preferred ankle tilt over that. So articulation on this guy is okay. You can still get him in some nice poses. He's just got the biggest detriment to him is he's got a lot of car hanging off of him everywhere, and that really kind of hinders his movement. But still, overall posability, I think you can get him where you want to get him for some nice looks. So let's go ahead and bring in his accessories and take a look at those and see what you can do with those. Oh yeah, it looks like it's Electro Whip time. Let's go ahead and take a look at those accessories. I've got them pre-installed to save a little bit of time here, so let's bring those in. You can take a look here. Now, there's really not much to these. We'd already talked about the detail, but as far as the installation or the use, there's not a lot going on here. So he has 3 fingers on each hand, and what you do is you remove one of the 3 fingers, the only one you can remove, and then you just plug and play. So take a look at that real quick here. Just wiggle that out. And you're left with that hollow area. And right down here is his finger. So they do have some convenient robot mode storage for these fingers, but I don't trust this at all. And so just kind of a heads up, it doesn't take a lot to make these come out. So they're on a very, very shallow tab. So it really worries me that if you store those here, there's a real chance they're going to get lost. And they're not the biggest thing in the world anyway. And being gray, they'll blend in with just about anything. So, but yeah, so all you do is you take that, you plug it in, and now he's got 3 fingers again, and 1 whip. So, you know, sounds like the name of a band, I suppose. 3 fingers and 1 whip. Welcome to the stage. But yeah, there he is with his accessories. Not a whole lot to cover on this, guys. They look cool. It'd be nice if they had some paint apps or, you know, some electrical, I don't know, effects that made them look a little cooler, but I think this works for this guy. So just simply not a lot to talk about as far as the effects go. Just be mindful of that storage right there if you store his fingers. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to transformation on this guy. Now, before we get started on transformation for Jolt, just a couple of notes real quick. First and foremost, these arms, when you tuck them away for the car mode, there's a bit of origami that's involved, so bear with me if I don't get them right the first time. I promise you I'll get you there. Secondly, these thumbs, because they come out for the electro whips, they have a tendency occasionally to come out. Hopefully we won't lose them during the transformation, and by lose them I mean have them fall out, but just in case they do, understand that sometimes that might happen. I've transformed this guy more than a few times now, and it's happened once or twice, so it wouldn't be my, I wouldn't be surprised, Murphy's Law, if they pop out during the transformation while I'm recording it. All that being said, let's go ahead and start the transformation. So the first thing you're going to want to do is come to the back. You're going to take this portion right here, the windshield, and you're going to swing this all the way down. And then you can lift it up. And once you do that, essentially you're just making the top of the car here. You're going to swing these pieces in. This is the hood. And you're going to get these tabs aligned and just get those pressed together as such. Now this is the bumper. We're going to come back to this in a little while. This will be about the last step that we do. So now we're going to turn our attention to creating the rear bumper. So this is the beginning of the origami, if you will. So take this shoulder pad and pull that shoulder pad out like that. And then when you do that, you're going to take the rear shoulder pad portion. You're going to rotate that around. Now you see you have a tab and you have this small slot right there. So you're going to rotate that around and you're going to line those tail lights up. Do the same thing on the other side over here. You're going to fold that out and then you're going to rotate this around. So you've essentially created the tail lights right there. Now when you swing this over, you're going to turn your attention back here to this. Now your hands are all going to tuck away in this. So something that I just did that I need to make note of is he does have a hinge right there. Just bring that hinge down. That's going to give you the cavity that you need to tuck his hands away. All right, so in order to do this, like I say, this is where the origami begins. Take those hands, tuck those hands in like that, and now you're going to flip these up, and then you have these. It's going to be difficult to see, but right in here is a spot where you can rotate those shoulders up. So you can rotate those shoulders up just like that, and then bring that arm in, and you can see we're forming the rear bumper right there. And then just give that a squeeze and assemble all that together. So do the same thing here with that hand, and then bring this up and origami this in. And you can see how those hands are folding into this cavity right there. So twist all this. All right, tuck that away. And then bring these two pieces together in the rear. Give those a squeeze. And then you've created the rear of the car. This is just about the trickiest part of this transformation on Jolt. So if you get through this without a big problem, pat yourself on the back. It's the hardest part. So take these wheels, fold these out. These are the rear wheels, so you can approximate where they're going to go. But then we're going to turn our attention down here to what's going to be the front end of the car, and you can lift this up and get that out of your way and say hello. Now down here, you're going to take these wheels, you're going to flip these wheels out, and then you're going to bring the feet forward until you can't bring them forward anymore. All right, so do the same thing over here, flip the wheel out, and bring those feet forward. Now, you are going to need to tuck these knees up way high in here, because what you're going to do is you need to align, you kind of see here, the curve of this to the curve of that for that wheel well. So you're going to need to tuck those knees up. And what I'm doing here is I'm actually using my other thumb to hold this in position, or in the approximate position that you're going to need. So kind of do that, and then you can see the shape of the car come together right now. Now, I'm not going to do it yet, but I will show you. You do have a slot and a tab right there, and then you're just going to tuck that away when the time is right. But for now, we're going to do the other side. So you're going to take this, and you're going to tuck that knee way up in there, and get that just about where you need it to. So you should be just about right there. All right, and then take these two and you can tab them together. There's just a small tab right there. And then come back here to these. Now this is where you can tab them in if you want to. You don't have to do it at this step. You can do it a little bit later if you choose to do so. I'm just going to do it there for now, just so I can make sure that I have everything lining up the way that I want it to. So now it's a matter of just tabbing all this in on the sides. So just come along the side and give everything a squeeze. If this comes untucked, squeeze that up under there. There we go. Give that a squeeze. And then do the same thing over here. Come along the side, give it a squeeze. Make sure everything is tucked away as it should be. Get a few satisfying snaps out of that. It's almost like a Transformers ASMR. And then you can bring these bumpers down. So because he has the Chevy symbol on the front, bring that first bumper down, or bring the one without the Chevy symbol on it, bring that one down first, and you can tuck it away, and then bring this one down up over top of it, and then just spread it out just enough and get that tab in there. Wants to be a little difficult because I'm on camera. There we go. There we go. All right. And give everything one good final squeeze. Make sure that you're in good shape all the way around. And I think we are. So, excellent. All right, so there you have Jolt in his car mode. And yeah, for the most part, I think this came out looking pretty good. I mean, this is definitely a Chevy Bolt. No doubt about it. So let's go ahead and bring him in for the details in this mode. And we'll start right up front with that Chevy symbol and that grille. So you got a whole lot of silver going on here. And coming along to the side. As I've mentioned in previous reviews, I really appreciate when they do the wheels right and we don't have any ugly mushroom pegs sticking out anywhere. So they've done it right here. I'm really happy about that. And if you look closely, you can even see the discs for the brakes under there. So that's kind of a nice touch. And coming around to the back. All looks pretty good. Got the Chevy symbol up top there. And what I really like, this looks like shocks down here. I think that came out looking really cool. I mean, I don't know if that was intentional, if it was by design or, you know, accidental, but that ended up looking really nice. I like what they did there. And because it's an electric car, you know, it's not like you're going to put dual exhaust or anything on there. So good touch right there. And over here on the other side, it's going to look just like the right side did. And from the top, and this is all smoky clear plastic. There are pluses and minuses to it. I do have concerns about over time of the wear with clear plastic, if it's going to hold up. But I think with that smoky clear plastic, I think it gives it a nice look for those windows. And down low, not a lot of robot kibble. I mean, it definitely doesn't look like a car under there, but you know, it's not the worst thing. And I'll show it later, but if you look really close in there, you can see Jolt. You can see his head. So he's just driving himself around. He's driving Mr. Jolt wherever he wants to go. So I think that's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and talk about the accessories really quick. You can use the accessories or store them in vehicle mode if you want to. I guess you could also use them as weapons in vehicle mode. It's not the most elegant thing, but let's go ahead and talk about it. So you take his electro whips, and he has tabs, or he has slots on either side, and you just align those slots to these tabs, plug it in on either side, and yeah, there you go. You have Jolt with his electro whips ready to electro whip things in car mode. So yeah, like I say, it's not the most elegant weapon storage, but if you want to weaponize him while he's in car mode, that is definitely available to you. All right, so what we'll do now is we will go ahead and we'll bring in some comparisons so you can see how he stacks up against some other cars, or some other alt modes, excuse me. All right, everybody, so for our first alt mode comparison, I figured I'd bring in the most relevant comparison that I have. So on the left, you have the Studio Series 75 Jolt, and on the right, you have the Jolt figure that came out in 2009 for the Revenge of the Fallen movie. So, you know, the new guy over here and the old guard over here. And we're going to take a minute and kind of do a deep dive on this because, you know, if I'm speaking frankly, although this looks good, I think the car mode on this one looks much better. There's a lot more detail, and overall, I think it's a better looking vehicle. So what we'll do here is we'll give you a couple different views. So right here, of course, you see in the two ISO views, and here we see them going the same direction. Here they are in a rear ISO view. Here they are front to front. And here they are back to back. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the other comparisons. Next up is the Transformers Prime Rumble. Here we have the Decepticon version of Mirage from the Transformers Netflix War for Cybertron trilogy. And for our final alt mode comparison, I figured I would bring in one of the G1 characters. So this is the G1 Brawn. That's it for the alt mode comparison, so let's go ahead and get him transformed back into his robot mode. To get Jolt transformed back into his robot mode, the first thing you're going to want to do is unclip this front end. So just grab these, pull them up. And these are, like I said earlier, these are on those double hinges, so you can just bring those up, separate them as you bring them up, and then just get those out of your way. Just tuck them away up there, and then we'll come back to those later. And while you're here, you're going to go ahead and, if you just take your finger and your thumb and give these a push, you can start the separation process of the entire top of the car. So just keep giving that a pull all the way around. Give that a little bit more, and then if you want, come back here, undo those tabs back there, and give this a yank. There we go. And when you pull that up, there you can see Jolt just sitting back there. I don't know why that just tickles me. You can just see him sitting there driving himself around. All right, so once you've done this, now you are free to work on these legs. So if they haven't already separated on their own, just give them a little squeeze and separate them there. And make sure you have this disconnected, and then you can just take these legs and start straightening those legs out. Do that on both sides. And then for this, you are going to take this slab of car, you're going to rotate that around, and you can see this smooth area right back there. That's just where I line up the wheels. So bring this around, fold those wheels in, and then just line it up to that smooth area right there. And do the same thing on the other sides. Bring this down, fold that. Then come down here. I'm going to lift this out of my way for clearance. Come down here to the feet. Bring those feet down right there. And then tuck these wheels under. Just give those a shove. And then you have, for the most part, you have those legs all done. So now you can come back up here and you can turn your attention to all this origami going on back here. So what you're going to want to do is start giving this a pull and separate those out and start pulling these arms out. Now you're going to need to separate this bumper right here from these. So if you just give those a little bit of a pull, that's going to give you everything that you need now to lift this arm up out of the way, assuming you don't get his fingers all tangled in one another. So then pull that arm out, straighten the hand out, and then pull that down. When you do that, take these two pieces, just put your thumb and forefinger on either side, give them a squeeze, and then that's going to allow you to lift that out of the way for clearance, allow you to push this over, and then flip this up 90 degrees, and that forms his shoulder pads. Then you can bring those arms down. So do the same thing over here. Give this a bit of a squeeze and separate these, and then you can pull those arms out and lift that hand out of the way. And same thing, thumb and forefinger, give that a squeeze, push that shoulder pad forward, and then rotate this one 90 degrees. And then as you can see, what you've done is you've created those shoulder pads in the front. What I like to do, I don't think it's something you have to do, but what I like to do is open that up enough when I bring these arms down, the fronts of the shoulder pads cover these turbines, or at least a little bit of the turbines right there. So bring those down, and there you have his shoulders completed. So now you can turn your attention back here to the top of the car. And what you need to do here, trying to find the best view on the camera, guys, sorry, is give these a push right here, and then you're going to rotate these out. And when you do that, now swing all this back around, and then right here at this point, grab that and give it a squeeze and bring that up. When you bring that up, make sure these are pushed down. And now the last step, well, other than clean up, the last step is at this hinge point right here, take that entire body and swing that down, and then just put that backpack back there. So now you are just in your cleanup mode. So now you just position Jolt the way you want him. Make sure you've got his feet oriented where he can stand. And you are all done. Jolt is back in his robot mode. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and get into those bot mode comparisons and see how he stacks up there. Alright everybody, so just like in the car mode, I figured the best place to start for comparisons would be with the most relevant. So on the left we have the Studio Series Jolt, and on the right we have the original Jolt figure that we got for the 2009 Revenge of the Fallen movie. And yeah, you can see from a movie accuracy standpoint, we have a winner. I still think the car mode, the winner goes to the original Jolt, but as far as the figure goes, the Studio Series definitely blows it away in bot mode. So we'll get a couple different views here real quick on these between these two guys, and then we'll move on to the next comparisons. So here we have them in their ISO views to each other. Here they are from the back, from the side facing the same direction, back to back, and face to face. And let's not forget about those electro whips. Got to see the comparison between those two. And unfortunately, I do not have a Studio Series Revenge of the Fallen Optimus Prime in my collection. That's one of the figures that I passed on. So we're going to have to make do with a few other comparisons. So this is the Studio Series Revenge of the Fallen Megatron. Here is the Studio Series Jetfire. And last but certainly not least, here is the Studio Series Devastator. Alright, that wraps it up for the bot mode comparisons, so let's go ahead and get into those final thoughts. Alright everybody, so let's go ahead and talk about those final thoughts on the Transformers Studio Series number 75 Jolt. Just right off the bat, just to sum it up real quickly and briefly, I like this figure. I like the way he looks in bot mode and in vehicle mode, but he suffers from some articulation issues. But let's go ahead and get into the details and the meat of all this and try to quantify this guy. So for our first bullet, aesthetics, the overall look. The bot mode looks great. This is a great mold of Jolt. I think he looks fantastic in his bot mode. The car mode looks good. Frankly, I don't think it looks as good as the original figure that we got for the 2009 Revenge of the Fallen movie, but for what we've been getting in the deluxe class lately, I think it is more than adequate, but bot mode is certainly where he shines. I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10 for aesthetics. Now, as far as articulation, this is where he lacks a little bit. Frankly, missing that ankle tilt on a figure like this, and you can see even in this stance, he would have really benefited from some ankle tilt. I think it would have helped quite a bit with dynamic posing, so I really miss the ankle tilt on this figure. And he has so much car hanging off of him everywhere. Now, I don't mean that it detracts from him in a look standpoint, but from an articulation standpoint, it's really difficult to get him into some of these dynamic poses without him running into himself. So, for instance, the waist rotation. Even though he has the waist rotation, when you start turning his waist, the slabs of car on his hips start running into the back of the car on his back. So that's just something to be aware of. I think that the articulation is probably the lowest or going to be where this figure struggles the most. So for articulation, I'm giving this guy a 7 out of 10. Now, as far as accessories go, he comes with the accessories that he used in the movie. He has those 2 electro whips, and they are by far superior in comparison to the electro whips that came with the original figure for the 2009 movie. What they really lack, though, they really could have used some paint or some type of effects on them to make them look electrified. So as it stands, this is, gray plastic, and it's frankly kind of blah. It's great that he has them, and I think the overall mold works, but they could have really benefited from some paint or some overall effects to make him look electrified. So for accessories, I'm going to give this guy an 8 out of 10. Now for overall quality, I have no problems whatsoever with this figure. He came with both of his accessories, came with everything he was supposed to come with. Nothing on him is loose or broken. No issues with paint or with any of the molded components. So overall on this guy, he scores very highly on that. If I had to pick on anything, I would say just the fact that he has ball joints for those shoulders. Over time, that worries me. They will eventually get loose, especially when you're holding something like that electro whip that has so much weight on the far end there, and it's just over time. I don't think he's going to be able to hold that up. So for quality, I'm giving this guy a 9 out of 10 out of the box. And for our last point, the overall value, I'm giving this guy an 8 out of 10. I think for the price that you pay for the deluxe class figure, with everything that you get with this guy, I think he's a great addition to the collection. I think this is a character that definitely needed that revamp. So it's very much appreciated to get a Studio Series version of this guy. So yeah, an 8 out of 10 for the value there, which is going to give us a total of 40 points out of a possible 50, which puts this guy right at an 80% for an overall rating. So I picked this guy up at a local Walmart for $20. I think that that's probably the right price for this guy. I don't think that he's going to be worth more than that. I know that you could probably find him online, and if you really wanted him bad, you could pay, upwards of $25 or $30. I don't think he's worth it. I think he's worth the 20. So with that being said, that's going to wrap the review up. I really hope that this helps you make a purchasing decision as to whether or not you want to get this guy, or if not, I just hope it was an entertaining review for you to watch. So if you haven't already done so, be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and leave us some comments. Let us know what your thoughts are. And until we see you guys in the next review, take care.